Welcome into Locked On Phillies. The Phils lose the series ender down in Miami, but still win the series. And now, well, the road gets a lot tougher. We'll discuss on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, it's Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Happy to be here with you, former collegiate baseball player, former semi-pro baseball player. Okay, well, I pitched. That still counts as a baseball player and all of you position players out there. But I'm happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. A tough game for the Philadelphia Phillies last night, falling to the Miami Marlins down in Miami by a score of 5-3. It was an interesting game. So Pablo Lopez made the start for the Miami Marlins. Noah Syndergaard, the start for the Philadelphia Phillies. Syndergaard wasn't great. Gave up 4 runs in the first 4 innings. Now it was just one big inning that kind of got it done for him. But still, not a great performance by Noah Syndergaard. Pablo Lopez, though, wasn't as good as the numbers would suggest. The Phillies just... Here's the issue with this game, right? And I don't have a huge issue with it. I'm not losing sleep over it. I didn't lose sleep over it last night, rather, I should say, because right now it's about 11 a.m., so definitely not losing any kind of sleep right now. It was one of those games where you've already won the series. You're playing a series on the road. You know you're having to travel to another opponent the next night. It's a tougher opponent. And the Phillies go, and they're playing in Atlanta tonight against the Atlanta Braves, who are fighting for the NL East right now. So you're playing a playoff caliber opponent, one of the top, I'd say, 5 teams in baseball, maybe even better than that. You could argue that over the past 3 months, no one has been as good as the Atlanta Braves. So I'm sure the Phillies are focusing on that, a little bit of a look-ahead game, if you will. And the Marlins are not a good opponent. Pablo Lopez is an all right pitcher, but not a great pitcher, just kind of an average player. You're playing in a town in Miami that never fills that stadium, even when the Marlins are good. So it's kind of a quiet, sleepy atmosphere, and it looked like the Phillies slept walk through last night's game. Now, Brandon Marsh went 4 for 4. That was a nice performance by him. Really, really good night at the dish by Brandon Marsh, who I just raved about his defense. Listen, if he comes around hitting the ball wise, he's going to be such a huge pickup for this Philadelphia Phillies team. And the fact they have him under control for so long, I love everything about. I believe it's 2027 is when they have him controlled through under team control. A 24-year-old outfielder that's great defensively, shows flashes at the plate of being a major league level hitter. He had a great performance last night, so that was encouraging. Kyle Schwarber hit his 38th home run, I believe, of the year it was. Still leads the National League. Still second in all of baseball, trailing only Aaron Judge in home runs. So that's great. I would love there would be nothing that I would love more. And honestly, I'm talking out both sides of my mouth here with this one, because I love to see incredible achievements in baseball. What Aaron Judge is doing right now for the New York Yankees is unbelievably impressive. And I love seeing records go down and people do things that haven't been done in a while and all-time seasons get put together. It's unbelievable to watch players do stuff like that. So I'm rooting for guys like Aaron Judge. And I'm also rooting for guys like Aaron Judge for the fact that he's close to winning the Triple Crown in the American League. Now, Paul Goldschmidt is also close to winning the Triple Crown in the National League. So a couple incredible hitters putting on incredible seasons. And Kyle Schwarber is standing in Paul Goldschmidt's way, because to win the Triple Crown, of course, you have to lead the league in home runs, RBIs, and average. Kyle Schwarber leads the National League in home runs. So part of me wants to see Paul Goldschmidt take home that award. Part of me is like, it'd be pretty cool if Goldschmidt batted like 320 and had like 140 RBIs and just one less home run than Kyle Schwarber and missed it because of that. That would be kind of funny to me. But either way, Kyle Schwarber leads the National League in home runs. He went yard last night. So that's encouraging. But the Phillies it felt like this team slept walk through that game. They started their guys. JT Realmuto, who I mused might have a day off, he played. but it just wasn't a Phillies lineup that seemed engaged in the game. And that's okay. They've won 3 series in a row now. They swept the Washington Nationals in between 2 series wins against the Miami Marlins. The easy part of the schedule, yeah, they went 7-9. We will take that. We will take 7-9 a billion times out of, or 7-9, 7 of 9. So 7-2. We'll take that a billion times out of a billion, despite the loss to the Miami Marlins. There wasn't really that much else to take out of last night's game. Just your season series is over with the Marlins. You've handled the Miami Marlins all season long. It's another season series won. So you put that in the bank for the Philadelphia Phillies. Even though the Marlins earlier yesterday, we found out they were already eliminated from playoff contention by some day baseball being played elsewhere and a bunch of different numbers. No need to go into that. It's still another opponent that you won a season series against that in previous years has given you a really tough time. So hopefully this last series and this season puts to bed forever the whole Marlins are the team that the Phillies don't know how to beat. No, they figured it out this year, took care of business under Rob Thompson. It's a good season against the Miami Marlins, and it wraps up, well, basically, 2/4, so half of the NL East opponents at the Eagles that the Phillies are going to have to play this year. They still have 7 more games against Atlanta. We'll talk about those coming up in the next segment. And they'll have 4 more games against Washington. But Miami and the Mets, both of those teams, their series are done. Now, the Phillies might see the Mets again in the playoffs, but for the regular season, they will only face the Braves and the Nationals the rest of the way in division. And it closes the door on another series. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 series remaining for the Philadelphia Phillies, starting with the game tonight against the Atlanta Braves. If there's anything to take away from this Miami Marlins series, it's what we talked about in 2 days ago's podcast episode, where we talked about grinding out at bats and grinding out games against talented pitchers. Well, in games 1 and 2, that was the hallmark of this series. You're a Nick Maton home run away from losing this series, but hey, you got that home run, so it doesn't matter. That's what this team does. They grind out at bats. They grind out games. They wear down pitchers. They're like sandpaper is what the Philadelphia Phillies are. You can rub it against your hand and you're like, it's not that bad. You keep doing it over the course of 9 innings and all of a sudden your hand's gone. That's kind of what this team does to you at the plate. And even though they didn't do it last night because they came out kind of lackadaisical, well, they've proven under Rob Thompson since he's taken over that is what this team is. That's what they'll continue to do. And it's a comforting thing. Now, here's the issue. There have been really 2 teams that the Philadelphia Phillies have had major trouble against this year. The New York Mets being one. And hopefully you're done seeing the New York Mets. Hopefully you don't run into them in the playoffs. They get knocked out before you have to see them and their season ends prior to the World Series. That'd be wonderful. That's an ideal scenario for how the Mets series or season ends up. The other one, and the season series right now is tied at 6 games apiece, is the Atlanta Braves, the defending World Series champions. They're the hottest team in baseball over the past couple of months. They're on an unbelievable pace. They're vying for the division with the New York Mets, who are on the verge of another epic collapse. And we already did an episode that kind of talked about them potentially going into it. Yeah, this is a big series against a tough opponent. And the Philadelphia Phillies have to prove that they can compete against an opponent like this. And I have a thought about, I want to tell you, not just a preview of the series and who's pitching and the players to look out for and things like that. We'll do that coming up as well. But what I'm going to lead off with is what I need to see from the Phillies out of this series, because there's a very specific, if it does seem like a low bar, it's because it kind of is, but it's a very specific thing that I need. I guess specific is the wrong word. No, it's a general thing that I need to see from the Philadelphia Phillies in this series down in Atlanta for me to feel comfortable with them when they come back up to Citizens Bank Park to take on the Blue Jays for their penultimate home series of the season. We'll discuss that next as we preview the upcoming series with the Atlanta Braves on today's Locked On Phillies. Let me tell you about my friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. You can find all the latest football league developments, game matchup, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week games. We're on the week 2. Thursday night football was awesome last night. Good game between Los Angeles and Kansas City. I lost some money on that game, but hey, I was pretty well informed thanks to all the information over at BetOnline on how they're doing. And the Birds have a big Monday night matchup with Minnesota this week. Still plenty of time to figure out where you want to fall on a close line in that one. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Well, you remember how when we came into this Miami Marlins series, I said the pitching matchups just don't really favor the Phillies. Not that they don't favor them, but it wasn't an ideal setup for the pitchers that the Phillies were going to face. They were facing arguably the Marlins' best two pitchers in Edward Cabrera and Sandy Alcantara, just looking at the ERA and the whip and stuff like that. And you can make a case that Luzardo's also been incredible for them at points this year. Either way, it didn't stack up as favorably as the Phillies would have liked. Well, they're dealing with the same thing here in the upcoming series with the Atlanta Braves. So the Phillies will play 3 down in Atlanta at Truist Park, 7:20 p.m. tonight, 7:20 p.m. Saturday, 1:35 p.m. Sunday. So a nice day baseball game. Man, we haven't had day baseball since what the last Sunday? Yeah, Sunday. So it's going to have been a week. Normally you get that midweek getaway day baseball game. I like day baseball, so I always circle those on the calendar. But listen to some of these pitching matchups because the Phillies are going to have to see some really good pitching if they want to compete with the Atlanta Braves. And I promised you what I wanted to see, my general goal for this series in Atlanta versus the Braves. I need the Phillies to win at least one. That's minor. Don't get swept. Did I just say sweep? Don't get swept. It's been a long week, all right, folks? I'm trying to talk my way through it. Don't get swept, so win at least one game. I don't need them to win the series, but I need them to look competitive. I need them to show up in Atlanta and look like they deserve to be on the field against that opponent because the Braves are going really, really good right now. The Phillies have played them actually better than most teams in baseball have this year. They have a familiarity with them for being in the division, but they also seem to know how to play well against the Atlanta Braves and the style that gives them the best chance to win against this opponent. So that's all good news, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Atlanta's incredible. Brian Snitker, their manager, has been doing a really, really good job again this year, following up a World Series championship with a year that was very deserving of a fan base and a team that experienced such success last year. So that's enough of giving props to the Atlanta Braves. You get it. They're a really good organization and a good team. And to make matters worse, well, the Phillies are going to have to face some of their best pitchers. And this is why I'm okay with them just looking like they belong and winning one game, because you don't need a series win to keep yourself in great shape for the playoffs. And it's not an opponent that you really should win a series against. Like any given series, you can beat anybody, right? The Mets just got swept by the Cubs. Anything's possible. But what I do need to see is I need to see the Phillies compete. That's more important. How they look, the eye test, not so much the results. Because we haven't seen them compete against a talented team like the Braves since they played the New York Mets back on August 20th. It's been nearly a month. So that'll give me a good feeling in my stomach when it comes to thinking about the Philadelphia Phillies. And if they don't do it in Atlanta, well, they get 4 more games starting on Thursday. Next Thursday, that is, of course, the September 22nd series when that starts. 4 more games against Atlanta, and those games are at home. So it's not the end-all, be-all. Just compete, show up, and ready to go. Anyway, the pitching matchups, though, not in the Philadelphia Phillies' favor. Ranger Suarez goes in Game 1, which is great. But he faces Max Fried. And Max Fried, while he hasn't been as good as some of his best years with the Atlanta Braves, he's still got a 13-6 record, a 2.50 ERA, a 1.01 whip, and 155 strikeouts. He's got another level above that where he's like Cy Young caliber some nights. But those are pretty darn close to Cy Young numbers anyway. Even in a year where he had some struggles, he's still absolutely dominant. He's a strong 28-year-old lefty in the prime of his career, and he's one of the best arms, not just in the National League, in all of baseball. The Philadelphia Phillies are going to have their hands full with Max Fried tonight. Following that, well, you go ahead and you get a little bit of I don't know if I'd call it an off day, But you get to see Jake Odorizzi in game 2, and he's got a 4.15 ERA. Now, Pablo Lopez had similar numbers, and he just dominated this lineup down in Miami. But Jake Odorizzi is the pitcher to beat in this series if the Phillies are going to run into one to beat. A 32-year-old who's been around the league for a while, a veteran righty, just doesn't have the numbers that the other two guys the Phillies are facing has. And plus, it's a Nola day for your Philadelphia Phillies. And anytime Aaron Nola takes the mound, you believe as a Phillies fan, you have the chance to win because most times, 9 times out of 10, Aaron Nola is the best pitcher on the field that night. So, advantage Phillies in game 2, advantage Braves in game 1. Game 3, again, Bailey Falter. He got Sandy Alcantara, and he beat him on Tuesday. Well, now he gets to follow that up by taking on Spencer Strider. And Spencer Strider, to me, seems to be the lock National League Rookie of the Year. I don't think there's much debate on that. He's listed as 6 foot 195 at 23 years old. I'll tell you what, he's not 6 foot. He's definitely 195, but he's not 6 foot because I'm almost 6 foot. Let's call it 6 foot. And I had like an inch or two on him in the locker room when I talked to the Braves players when I was doing a little bit of work for the station down there in Atlanta. I don't know how he does it, but the dude just pumps gas. He's been one of the best young players in baseball this year, a 2.72 ERA, a 1.01 whip, 192 strikeouts, which is amazing. And you've seen him a couple times. The mustachioed man has been almost unhittable this year. He's a guy that feeds off of his team's success, and with the Braves being so successful, well, yeah, plenty to feed on there. Let's talk about what he's done versus the Phillies. He's had 3 games, 3 appearances, 2 starts, 15 and a third innings pitched. He's only allowed 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 1 home run, 4 walks, 24 strikeouts in 15 and a third innings against the Philadelphia Phillies. And at home, he's had 104 strikeouts in 64 and 2/3 innings. This dude's a strikeout machine. I don't know what more to say about him. And while Bailey Falter's been really good for the Phillies, he's been really good in like a spot starter type of role. Not exactly the guy that you want matching up with Spencer Strider, mano y mano. So, and I'll tell you what, Jimmy Rollins, we had Jimmy Rollins on the morning show today, the John Kincaid show over on 97.5 The Fanatic. And Jimmy Rollins was very complimentary of what he's seen from 3 pitchers this year, Wheeler, Nola, and Bailey Falter. And if J-Roll says it, well, you know it's the darn truth. He's been good. He's been really good. This isn't taking away from Bailey Falter. Just Spencer Strider is, you could argue, a top 10 pitcher in baseball at the given moment, and he's only 23 years of age, which is scary as anything as a Phillies fan, knowing that you might have to face him in a Braves uniform for the next decade. But hey, that's what you get in the series ender. So if there's a game for the Phillies to win, it's game 2. If there's a game for the Phillies to battle, it's game 1 against Max Fried and game 3 against Spencer Strider, and then we'll see. But this is kind of what you're going to see if the Braves are indeed a playoff matchup for you out of the second wild card spot. If that's the case, and you're facing the Atlanta Braves, which would be what you're doing in the second wild card spot if they end up being the top wild card team, you're going to have to go to Atlanta for a 3-game series just like this one, and you're going to have to beat either Fried or Spencer Strider or both. So, hey, a good example of what could be in the Phillies' future come October, and let's see how they hold up. I'm cool with 1 win. I'm cool with finding a way to squeak one out and then just look competitive in the other 2. And then once the playoffs roll around, obviously we're working with a different situation, but no Wheeler in this series. So you add him to the mix in favor of Ranger Suarez in that first game. I don't know how it shakes out. Either way, going to be an interesting series to kind of look into the future at what the Philadelphia Phillies first round playoff matchup could be if things hold how they hold currently in the playoff standings. So we'll all be watching that closely. And coming up next, because it is Friday, I want to do an off the poll, but I also kind of want to do it open-ended. I'll explain exactly what I mean because there's 3 letters that are normally associated with Bryce Harper, and we're going to have to determine if he deserves them again or if they go to someone else. I'll tell you the 3 letters and what we're asking coming up next as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Okay, so here's the off the poll question for today. And off the poll, it's our Twitter poll segment where we go ahead and throw that out to people and see how you respond. We had the most responders ever to last week's off the poll question about who are you counting on the most the rest of the way. Well, I'm going to follow it up with a similar question, but one that was posed uh, over at 97.5 The Fanatic today. And this is where I steal most of my stuff from, is conversations I have around the studio with the guys over there. Who is the Phillies team MVP so far this year? I know we've got 6 series left, but we're around and down. Basically, the meat of the season is over. So I'm going to put a couple options for team MVP. I'm going to give you 3. And then I'm going to also give you other with a write-in option to see if someone wants to throw somebody else's hat in the ring. Now, when I asked the last question, here's why it's different, right? I asked who needs to shoulder most of the load, or who's the most important player down the stretch for the Philadelphia Phillies. That was last week's off the poll question. And Bryce Harper got most of that vote. If I asked you who the MVP was, Bryce Harper wouldn't win it right now for the Philadelphia Phillies because he missed so much time. I'm not going to tell you who I would vote for, but I'm going to put a couple names out there. The first one is going to be Bryce Harper, frankly, because he's the guy. I'm also going to put Aaron Nola out there. I think I'm going to have to put, I don't know if I can put a bullpen guy out there. I'm thinking about Sir Anthony Dominguez, but no, I don't know if a bullpen guy could really hold MVP of the team, short of like what Brad Lidge did with the perfect season in 2008, not blowing a single save all year long, including the postseason, but they haven't had any guy like that. So I'm going to go all position players or starters. I'm going to go Aaron Nola. I'm going to go Zach Wheeler. I'm going to go Bryce Harper. No, we can only do 3. Bryce Harper, Aaron Nola, JT Realmuto are all going to be in there. And I'm going to write another option down there. So if you want to write in Zach Wheeler, if you want to write in Rhys Hoskins, if you want to write in Kyle Schwarber, who I talked about leading the National League in home runs, I want you to put all these guys down and see who we get the votes for. And I'm just interested to see where the votes come in on who you think deserves the MVP of the Philadelphia Phillies season. Of course, we still got ways to go, but this is about the time where you can look back on what players have done this year and see a little recency bias because JT's been hot in the second half and has been the best catcher in baseball. Remember, Aaron Nola had a great start to the season. Bryce Harper had a stretch there where he was amazing. Kyle Schwarber's June was the best month of any player in any month across baseball. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how it plays out. A lot of options there. And I'll throw that up at LO_Phillies. I'll retweet it at Connor Thomas 975. And we will discuss on Monday's episode about how you feel about the MVP of this team. And we're also going to dive into my thoughts, who I would pick, and what I think your selection says about how the fan base views this team. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully it's a fun weekend worth of games. And the Philadelphia Phillies take care of business down in Atlanta, maybe even win that series. That'd be great. Not looking for it. I'm looking for one win and a competitive series, and I'd be happy with that. But we'll see. Sometimes the expectations can exceed, or the results can exceed the expectations, rather. Good news is we're going to find out over the next couple of days, tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday during the day. So when that happens, I will be back with you on Monday, and we will discuss more on the next episode of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you one more time for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sully, he's great. He's the best. He covers baseball inside and out, covers the entire league, not just a specific team. Does all of it on YouTube, podcast form, Odyssey. Check that out. Wherever you get your podcast, you can check his work out. It's great work by Paul Francis Sully. So go check out Locked On MLB. That's his wonderful podcast that he does under the Locked On umbrella. That's all the time for today. And again, I will talk to you on Monday.